Hello and welcome to the High Point Autumn Rowing Festival and particular the Dr. Lenny Peters Cup. The crews racing in this fantastic event, Old Dominion, High Point and all the way from the UK, the Oxford University Lightweight Women's Crew. I'm Martin Cross, I'm Olympic champion from Los Angeles back in 1984, but more recently I am World Rowing's commentator, so you may be familiar with my voice if you watch most of the World Rowing events at the World Championships and Olympics. I'm thrilled to be doing this commentary with Emelie Eldracher. I know many of you will recognise that name. Emelie was the 2004 Paralympic cox for the USA PR3 mixed cox fours, where that crew won an amazing silver medal behind Great Britain. And really excited about this race here on the lake, particularly because it features ducks and terns and some great rowing, some fantastic programs. It's going to be epic.
I can't wait to get started. I had the pleasure of racing this later in the day with the Ukraine national team, so getting to go down the course myself and now rewatch an earlier race is absolutely spectacular. And we're going to be getting into some of the details of this race and in particular that turn that we're so excited to watch as these boats come around it. So I will start the race and let's get started.
Yeah, so I think the first thing that we want to know is which college school is where, as we see from our drone, and you can see on the screen there, High Point. We'll talk about that amazing program on the left of your screen. Old Dominion are in the centre of your screen, and all the way from the UK, it's the Oxford University Lightweight Women, more of them. They're on the right of your screen, just along the trees, and it looks like High Point might have had a slight advantage off the start, Emelie.
Yes, it looks like they were able to edge ahead. Now they're out rating Old Dominion by a bit here, by about 2 strokes. I have them going up closer to 34, 35, with Oxford launching out at more of a higher upbeat pace of around 36. So they just edge out with a little bit on that higher rate compared to the slightly lower 33 that we're going to see from Old Dominion as they lengthen out here.
Yeah, it's really interesting looking at that tactics. I mean, they're lightweights, which I guess they're going to be. I guess in European it would be around about 59, 57 kilos average. What is it in pounds and stones, Emelie?
Oh, I believe we're going to be looking at around 135 pounds over here in the US is going to be about the average weight for the lightweight athletes over here.
So it must be the way they're rowing. That Oxford crew on the far side, they're on the top of your screen. They have absolutely blasted through High Point. They're ahead of Old Dominion, who are at the back of the field at the moment. And you can see, well, it's actually fairly close. High Point are doing really well against the experience of Oxford. Does it make any difference, the fact these Oxford women are lightweights, just weighing in at around about 135 pounds? And the women from High Point and Old Dominion are probably much taller and maybe stronger.
Yes, and I think that you can expect, I know as a coxswain going in, I would expect that the boat would have a little bit of that higher cadence and be launching out with that slightly higher rate. And so I think you can maybe expect that from a more lightweight crew going into a race like this, especially over a longer distance. That higher rate may increase an advantage early off the start. So I think something to watch for is as these boats lengthen out to their base pace, is the acceleration of these open weight teams going to overtake this lightweight program? I think is what I would be thinking as a coxswain at the start.
Oh, look at Old Dominion coming right back at High Point, but what's going to happen on the turn? Everything might get upset, Emelie.
Yes, so we see Old Dominion really sneaking in there. I think taking a charge and taking both boats by surprise. But a High Point, Grayson out here is going to have that inside corner coming up on this large duck. And this is going to be a boat stopping corner potentially. And so, although High Point had that long outside corner, everything could change in this moment because these boats are still pretty close. We have about a length of that lead, but when you're stopping that boat trying to round the corner, whichever coxswain makes his corner is going to really affect the outcome of this race. Coming up right here in about only 150 meters, 200 meters maybe. And as a coxswain, this is where your heart rate really starts to rise here because you're trying to angle correctly to get the most out of that corner. You want to cut it tight, but if you cut it too tight, you're going to have to stop more. So it's that trade-off.
Well, Oxford have almost stopped. Verity Black, the coxswain of the Oxford, she's almost stopped them. And they are trying to get round that yellow duck. And it looks like High Point, as you said, on the inside. Wow, they're coming right back on Oxford. Old Dominion on the outside. Well, disadvantage there for them turning on the outside. But what an advantage to High Point. They've got the overlap on the Oxford lightweight women now.
Absolutely incredible. And as they come around, they're going to take that inside even more right around that second buoy. And what's so exhilarating to watch this as a coxswain is the trust that is in that boat, because all three boats had a different strategy here. The Oxford team had all of their port sides stop and check, but High Point had their stern forward continue rowing, and they checked that 2-seat and 4-seat to get around the buoys. And as a freshman crew, this just shows a lot of trust in their coxswain Grayson and just in what they were going to do. So the trust in this new crew is really outstanding here. And we saw with Old Dominion also a tighter corner. They had their stern check to really get around, but they didn't have a 4 rowing as well. So I think where High Point pulled ahead here is they had 4 athletes still rowing around that corner, and that's going to really make a difference coming around that duck.
I love those turns. I love the whole duck. What is the idea of the ducks, Emelie? Tell me what it is.
Well, I think it's just supposed to make us smile. Jean said after a long day of traveling, getting to a race, people just want to smile, right? And so what if we throw in 2 huge ducks? It definitely makes it more fun, but I mean, I've said through and through that duck is just watching and judging all of our corners, and the duck just gets to chill there as the starboard side of these crews are giving absolutely everything they have to get around the duck. So I'd like to check in with the duck and see what the duck thought of all those corners that day. I'm sure that it's been ranking them as we come around.
Absolutely. So Oxford's lightweights have just reasserted their dominance, but High Point have got the overlap, that magical bit of coxing from Grayson Williams. She must be so motivated now that they've got the overlap on the Oxford lightweights. And what can we do towards the end of this course, which is about 4 or 5 minutes away? Old Dominion at the back. They've got an awful lot of work to do. But shout out to Jess Dietrich, the former Navy coach, who coached, I think, at High Point back as long ago as 2014. And she's now come into High Point. They've started this program. It's the newest university program maybe in the world. And they are leading Old Dominion and tracking the might of Oxford University lightweights.
Absolutely. And so this is where I think we're going to start to see a little bit of a pickup of a rate from Old Dominion. So I have them coming in Oxford at about 33.5 right here. We see Old Dominion around a 32. That's a little bit of a beat higher. They're starting to inch up to that 32.5 increase rate as we close in here with High Point at around a 32.5, 33. And we see that Old Dominion boat is keeping their eye on the shoreline and really trying to inch out the line of the Oxford boat in front of them because they can see what's safe, right? As a coxswain behind, you can see what's safe, and you see Oxford is not hitting those blades on the shore, so that means we have a little bit of room that we might be able to squeeze out, and you definitely see Ellen taking advantage of that here.
Yeah, I think Ellie Gortz has done so well to take that line on the inside, the cocks of Old Dominion, and the experience of Lucy Brennan and Sydney Blackburn. You can see, you know, maybe their coach Brian Connolly said, take it off steady and really drive it in when you're past that yellow duck on the home run. And they're on the home run now, and they are putting their bows ahead of High Point. Maybe that's possibly a little bit of inexperience from the High Point cock. She did so well, Grayson, but do you think, you know, if you were her, you'd have moved in behind Oxford or stayed out in that water, Emelie?
Well, I have to admit, Martin, that I did get a warning in my own race for trying to really take that corner both times. I tried to move in front of the Duke crew and take that corner. So I have to admit that I was out here trying to really squeeze out and make sure I got as close to shore. But I think it's supposed to be a fun race for everyone and sportsmanship up. And so I think Grayson's really trying to make sure that everyone has their lane and no one feels like they're being pushed into the shore, which is definitely a way of racing to make everyone feel excited.
So the question is, can the women of Old Dominion get through the Oxford lightweights? They are so close, and the Oxford lightweights have got to move out for that obstacle there. You can see it just in front. Old Dominion are tracking them there on the inside. This race couldn't be more exciting, could it? As we come up to the finish.
You just see that acceleration of Old Dominion pick up, but that two-seat of the Oxford boat, Charlotte, she is no stranger to bump racing, so she sees that and she says, nope, we're going to go. So you can see the Oxford crew just pick up with them. Coming into that final stretch around the Pink Duck, both boats have really launched out around the corner, but such an applause to Old Dominion for saying, I'm holding my line, right? There was no question about where that boat was going to go. And they said, we're taking the inside of this corner. They were very clear with that bow and where they were going to go. And there was no question of where these boats were going to plan for this last final around 300-meter stretch here.
So we're coming to the finish very shortly. Old Dominion, they've really got just an overlap, maybe just a little bit of clear water. It's the Oxford lightweights out in front, with those four women from the lightweight boat race. Cox Verity Black has held a line, and coming up to the finish, you can see the buoy that we're passing. They have to go through the red buoys at the finish. But Old Dominion, they do have an overlap. What a fantastic race from them. They really came back into it. And High Point, well, I think being in second place so early on and then that amazing turn, they are going to remember this race for a long, long time.
Absolutely. And how crazy exciting is it for your first collegiate race to be this tight and with one of the oldest programs in the world? I think that's what makes the juxtaposition of this race so exciting. Of you have that juxtaposition between the newest and one of the oldest, most established programs. So
yeah,
very
you know, and I think this is massive for Oxford lightweights. They are out again to try and beat Cambridge. This is a very strong crew. I thought they rode a fantastic race, and I think the standard of Old Dominion to actually get that close to them, and the standard of High Point to be in that position, to be so competitive, bodes really well for the future of these two programs.
And the last thing I have to say, because I didn't mention it in the race, was watching Verity's line, you just see it plowing through. There's no fishtailing coming off the end of that Oxford boat at all. No, that boat is charging straight and through, even around those corners. So fantastic lines from all coxswains, really trying to nail those advantages throughout the race.
So the thing is, after seeing this race, I want to do it now. I want to go
Yes.
around that duck.
I think you nail it. You have the inside information now. Oh, you absolutely.
Yeah, well, there is one race with a turn, I think, in Europe where they get Elite Eights. It's in Zurich, I think, and it's on a river, and it's quite exciting and the turn just throws everything up in the air, and it was great to watch. But what a fantastic race. I think these crews, I know Old Dominion are going on to the head of the Charles. Not sure about High Point, but I know the ambition of High Point is to be in the NCAAs, and that's a big target for those women to aim for.
Well, we can't wait to see what comes out of all three crews, whether that's in the boat race, head of the Charles, and the future of High Point rowing is bright.
So from me, Martin Cross, it's goodbye for now.
And goodbye from Emelie Eldracher, coxswain for the 2024 Paralympic USA PR34, and the Ukraine coxswain at this race, as well as head of the Charles.
And that's it from High Point, North Carolina.